Hello, everyone, and welcome. When we talk about the American Revolution, we often jump straight to the fighting. But the war had to be justified, and that justification came from defining Americans not just as angry colonists, but as entirely new nationality. Today, we're looking at how Thomas Paine and Thomas Jefferson built this case in Common Sense and the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Paine's Common Sense, published in 1776, was a huge hit. If he'd written it today, it would have probably gone viral. His argument for a new nationality wasn't philosophical, it was both practical and angry. We can break his case down into three main points. First of all was the continental distinction. Paine argued that the idea of an island, Great Britain, ruling an entire continent, America, was absurd. The sheer geographical size of America, he argued, made it an independent political entity that deserved to govern itself. Next was the idea of a foreign king. Paine completely destroyed the idea of a revered monarch, calling George III a royal brute. By saying the king's interests were fundamentally opposed to ours, he broke the traditional parent-child bond of most empires, making the king a destructive foreign tyrant. And third, there was the commercial necessity. For Paine, staying tied to Britain meant constantly getting dragged into Europe's pointless wars, which ruined American trade. He argued that America's independence was an economic necessity, the only option for survival and prosperity. Then we move on to Jefferson and his philosophical argument. Jefferson, writing for the Second Continental Congress just 6 months later, took a completely different, more formal approach. His Declaration of Independence defined the new nationality not by geography or commerce, but by universal principles. Natural rights philosophy. This is the big one. Jefferson established the nation's identity on self-evident truths like the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This wasn't just a political breakup, it was the founding of a nation based on a universal moral and political mission. Next is the long train of abuses. To prove that King broke this social contract, Jefferson cites a laundry list of grievances, moving from philosophy to a legalistic indictment of the crown. This list proves the king failed his duties and forfeited his right to rule over a free people. And finally, there's the new political bonds. The Declaration concludes by claiming that the colonists, now free, assume their separate and equal station among the powers of the earth. This is the moment the new nationality steps onto the world stage. So we see two authors making the same case. We are a new nation, but now how do their methods compare and contrast? Paine is the radical populist, Jefferson is the measured philosopher. Paine used direct, accessible arguments about trade and royal abuses to mobilize the masses, while Jefferson used Enlightenment thought and legalistic structure to justify the divorce to the world. This distinction is critical, as historian Pauline Myers shows. The Declaration was a product of many local independence declarations, making it less a single invention and more a final, formal statement of a widespread American consensus. As historian Gordon Wood argues, Paine provided the emotional spark, while Jefferson provided the enduring ideological foundation. Despite their differences in tone and style, both authors defined the Americans' identity as one based on a decisive break from tradition. For Paine, Americans are distinct because of their continent and their economy. For Jefferson, Americans are distinct because of their commitment to a higher universal set of political principles. Both argue that Americans were a new type of people who had matured past the point of colonial submission. Ultimately, Paine and Jefferson each successfully created the framework for a new national identity. By making the case based on both practical necessity and universal rights, they gave the American Revolution the intellectual and moral justification it needed to succeed. Thank you all for watching. I look forward to our discussions.